There are many reasons why our little gem of a world is considered as spectacular as it is. One of the most important ones, aside from it being the only known planet to have created Star Wars, is that there's almost an innumerable variety of different biomes, from the icy tundras to tropical rainforests and arid deserts. With such an enormous range of environments, creatures on our planet had to evolve to fit their surroundings, adapting to harsh environments and predators alike with unique adaptations. But if our world has such a variety of adaptations, imagine what it must be like in an entire galaxy filled with countless unique planets. The macrocosm of the galaxy functions much like our world does. Different species evolved in such ways to adapt to the environment of their homeworlds, whether they were hellishly hot, like Tatooine, or infernally cold, like Hoth. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the Whipids, a race of sentient beings that, against all odds, managed to evolve and survive on a frigid homeworld.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
The Whipids were a sentient bipedal species that, to us, resembled two-legged mammoths thanks to their thick fur and ivory tusks. They lived on the frozen planet Tula, which was located in the Slice in the Outer Rim territories. Through the hyperspace route known as the Overic Grip Link, it was connected to Kiama and Pakuni. They shared their homeworld with the Mastmots, huge, furry, and tusked beasts of burden. Tula was an icy world, covered in glaciers, tundra, and frozen oceans and icy plains. It even had snow deserts, piled high with snow dunes. It had a long, oblong orbit around its sun, Kael'ta, and thanks to that, the planet experienced winter for the better part of the year. Summer only lasted 1/5 of the year, and even then, it only affected the tropical regions where temperatures warmed, snow melted, plants grew, and herd animals replenished their numbers. Despite the overall frozen landscape, not all of Tula was a frozen hellhole. Here and there, pockets of hot water welled up from the ground, forming hot springs that brought some heat to the world. As you can imagine, the natives had a lot to deal with, but they made it work despite the hostile environment. To start with, most things that made Tula their home did so in the tropical regions around the equator where summer was a thing. Alongside the Whipids and the Mastmots, which we already mentioned, they were joined by the Arabores, the Caribous, Tuggles, and our personal favorites, the Snow Demons, predatory creatures that hunted along the snow plains. Regardless of the food chain, predators and prey gathered peacefully around the hot springs, much like they do around watering holes in Africa. The Whipids were the native sentient species, and like their non-sentient neighbors, they had adapted very well to the cold. Whipids were massive, standing at an average of 2.5 meters tall and weighing around 400 kilos. They were bipedal, had short, stubby tails, and were covered in thick yellow, white, or golden fur. These fur coats coated every inch of their bodies and tails except for their face, which featured a prominent forehead and long, bowed cheekbones. Their most prominent facial features, however, were their long, curved ivory tusks. They also had sharp claws at the end of each three-fingered hand, completing their arsenal of weapons. As happens with many species with sexual dimorphism, female Whipids were smaller than their counterparts, but strangely heavier. They also had slightly bulging eyes. We're not sure what this would help with. Their young were also smaller, obviously, with less dense fur coats. More than anything, these beings were perfectly adapted for the cold. Their huge size was the first crucial adaptation to their environment. In biology, there's an established concept called Bergmann's rule that applies to the creatures on our planet. According to this rule, creatures that live in cold climates tend to be larger and thicker than the ones living in warmer regions. This also applies to creatures in the frigid depths of the oceans, where the phenomenon is known as deep sea gigantism. This adaptation helps them survive by conserving body heat more effectively. Another adaptation that helped them survive was a thick layer of blubber right under their skin. This helped insulate them from the cold, especially when they went underwater. Their thick fat kept them from losing too much heat to the water, and a protective oil coating their skin secreted kept their fur waterproof. This is a technique many animals in our world have also used. Polar bears, in particular, are excellent examples of a creature that relies on their thick fat and oily fur to stay warm in the Arctic. When it got hotter, they shed most of their fur, lost fat from their bodies, and put some on their faces. More surface area on their furless parts helped them dissipate excess body heat. The only trigger required for these changes was heat. This meant that whipids living on warmer worlds had these warmer weather adaptations all year round. All in all, the whipids were perfectly equipped to survive the cold, desolate landscape. Not just to survive, but to thrive. Their culture wasn't just tolerant of the cold, but it embraced it. Civilization on Tula centered around the change in seasons and the movement of prey. About 8.4 million whipids called the planet home, and they organized themselves into a tribal system of government. Whipid tribes were made up of 3 to 10 couples led by an elder called the Spearmaster. For most of the year, they lived a nomadic hunter lifestyle, traveling across the icy plains of Tula in the pursuit of prey. It was the Spearmaster who decided which way they would move each time. As animals moved to find vegetation, they moved too, relying on sleds constructed of leather, horn, and bone for transportation. To pull their sleds, they relied on tuggles, which could keep going for an entire day if properly fed. As we mentioned, there were plenty of frozen expanses of water, and to pass over them safely, the whipids designed their sleds to be wide, thus spreading the weight of their cargo over a large surface area. When they made camp, they slept in round tents made of animal hide. In the summer, when prey moved to the grassier areas around the equator, tribes set up a permanent base. They built the frame out of stone, then used mud and animal hide to seal it off from the outside. Unlike other species who formed family units, whipid tribes were formed by individual couples choosing to team up. They weren't a family or even close allies. Tribes were a necessity for survival, not a societal choice. As long as the hunting went well, the tribe stayed together. If they were unable to find food, the tribe would break up and join other successful tribes. As you might have guessed, the most important thing on Tula was survival, and anything that got in the way of that was severely frowned upon at best, dealt with permanently at worst. Tribal conflict fell in this category. Other species might have warred with each other over the resources and prime hunting grounds, but the whipids saw things differently. Fighting among tribes would only result in injuries or deaths, which would in turn reduce the number of capable hunters. That decreased the odds of survival for everyone involved. That's why tribes chose to prioritize cooperation. They would meet at hot springs, trade, and work together in big hunts. Individuals could and did fight with one another, resulting in grudges that could last years. Sometimes they ended in violent fights. But these were individuals fighting, not tribes, so it was tolerated. Bullies, on the other hand, were not. Their actions could jeopardize the tribe, and thus they were taken to task by the elder. The Spearmaster's preferred teaching method was taking the bully on a long hunt. If the bully saw the error of their ways, great. If they didn't, there was no point hoping that they would return from the hunt. This mentality of maintaining the peace did not extend to off-worlders. Some described the whipids as extremely violent and aggressive, but they were less violent toward those who came to Tula to trade. As an ice world, Tula was popular as a place to harvest and trade ice, which was their main export. Less welcome, of course, were those who came to the planet to hunt whipids for their ivory tusks. Ice traders were the reason Tula had a spaceport, and also the people the whipids first purchased low-grade technology from. After this first contact with the outside world, many whipids became curious about the greater galaxy. Many traveled off-world and found great success as bounty hunters and general hunters. During the time of the Galactic Empire, they were prominent in the ranks of bodyguards and enforcers for Imperials. But not all whipids worked for the Empire. Many became Jedi, while others made peaceful communities on other worlds, trading in furs and other commodities. But that's our take on these huge, ferocious Ice Kings. But what do you think? who would win in an arm wrestling contest, a wampa or a whippet? Place your bets in the comments section below and let us know what other creature you'd like us to cover next. As always guys, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.